Don't touch.
Okay. I don't know what we're supposed to do here. Where are we?
Hi, Trudy.
Oh. Hi.
It's Becky.
Welcome everybody as you're coming in.
I finally got it.
Hey, Emmy, come here. Hey, come on.
So just as a couple of reminders as everyone's coming in, there's going to be a rectangular bar on your screen. Sometimes if you wiggle your mouse around or if you have a touch screen, you kind of slide your finger around, you should see a rectangular bar with a little video camera and a microphone on it. And you'll want to make sure that you mute yourself, mute your microphone. And that's just so that we avoid any background noise during the presentation. So if everybody could locate that and mute themselves now, that would be really helpful.
Stop it. Go lay down. Hey, go lay down. Go. Come on. Get out of here.
I can hardly hear you, Melissa.
Let me see here. I turn up my volume. Does that make it any better?
No, I've got mine up all the way.
I can hear you fine, though.
I can
hear you.
You may try turning
Okay,
up your
it's
volume.
just me then. It's up all the way.
Okay.
My volume is also
This, of
up
course,
all
will
the
be
way, and it's
recording,
difficult to hear.
as well. Okay. So I have found, I know when I do this on my cell phone, I was playing around with it. It's a little bit harder to hear on an computer. It's a little bit better. And if you guys need me to repeat anything, of course, I would be happy to, but we are going to go ahead and get started. So in our chat room today, we have both VJ and Laura, and they're going to be helping out in the chat room. If you have questions along the way, they can help answer some of those questions. And then, oh, I just realized that my video camera was not on. Hi, everyone. Also, they can answer any questions that you may have, or they'll stop and interrupt me, and I would be happy to address all of your questions for you. But right now, we're going to go ahead and get started with this presentation. And so I'm going to switch over. You should be able to see me right now, but I'm going to switch over so that you can see my screen and see our presentation. Check that out.
What happened?
Nothing, we're switching screens.
All right, so if you guys can let me know for sure, do you see a future leader dog on a screen?
Yes. Marilyn McAllister, I see it.
Awesome.
We can see it, Melissa.
Thank you so much.
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome. Thank you, VJ. So there, I have a couple of goals that I wanted to try to work through with this particular presentation. So I wanted to present to you grooming. Obviously, it's something that is important for us to care for with our future leader dogs from a couple of different standpoints, and that's what we're going to first review. And then we're going to go through some pieces and we can hopefully watch together. I will tell you guys, for some reason, my internet has been running slow over in my house today, so I'm hoping we can get the videos to play. I was working on videos all this week, and literally to the last second today, I've been working on videos, so hopefully you'll get to see what I've been up to and what I've put my dogs up to. So from from a health and husbandry standpoint. And VJ was really good when she did her presentation on Tuesday. She talked about what husbandry is. And husbandry essentially is caring for an animal, what we do as a human to take care of the personal hygiene needs of an animal. So in this case, it's our future leader dog. And husbandry would refer to things like brushing their teeth, keeping their coat clean and groomed, trimming their nails, medicating or cleaning ears if need be, trimming or grooming if need be. All of that falls under husbandry. So in my mind, when I look just strictly at grooming, what that means to me, it's about maintaining both your dog's physical health as well as their appearance. And we know that we want them to look good, but there may be things that could cause their physical health to deteriorate if their nails are too long, or perhaps they have mats in their coat, or they have underlying skin conditions. It is beneficial for all breeds of dogs, helping to remove that dead hair, that dirt, and that dandruff. And so part of that is our responsibility and husband. Also, regular brushing also helps to bring out the natural oils in dog's fur. And I want to stop here for just a second, because I know that many of you who have either the labs or the lab crosses, the dogs with a very short coat, it doesn't feel like grooming is really going to be necessary for your case. However, it really does make a difference with smoother coat dogs, as we see that they may be a little bit smelly. Their coat may seem dull, kind of lifeless. As we brush them, you're going to redistribute many of the oils that are naturally occurring in their skin, and it makes their coat really glistening and shiny. And that actually occurs without having to bathe them at all. So that's one thing that I like to keep in mind just with grooming and brushing by itself. So now we're going to talk about grooming as it relates to the IFT standards. So this is something that's specifically for us as puppy raisers. Grooming is part of a dog's everyday life. This is written in the IFT manual. I cut and pasted it from that. But it is especially important for a dog that's going to be part of the public eye, that we want our dogs looking good. If people don't know us, they don't really know much about the organization, and we have a dog that's out wearing one of our bandanas or jackets out in public, and they don't look like they have the best coat. Maybe it's long in some areas and short in others. It's dirty, it's matted, it's not cared for. It's very easy for that person to make an assumption about what our organization is all about. And so as a public representation, we want to make sure that we take care of our dogs just on how they look on the outside. Of course, grooming also helps maintain the dog's willingness to be examined and touched. And we're going to get into that a little bit more, because the name of this presentation is not grooming, but stress-free grooming. What can we do to make our dogs more comfortable while they are being groomed and have veterinary exams? So now we're going to get into the stress-free goals part. So a couple of weeks ago, when we had our Meet the Team Teams online meeting, and you got to meet all of us in public, I talked about my background in veterinary medicine, and that I have been part of Fear-Free for many, many years, and it's a way that I have focused around my career, so that not only do we take really good health care of our dogs, but we think about it from a mental standpoint on if we need to have something accomplished, a task accomplished, whether that's vaccines, a nail trim, a physical exam. How do I introduce that without causing the dog unnecessary stress? And I know this is easier for our future leader dogs, but many of you may have another dog at home that's not comfortable at the vet, that is fractious, that they are afraid when they go there. The vet explains that they have a hard time restraining them, that they need to be muzzled, whatever the situation is. And so my focus is really on preventing any of the situations from happening and making those situations better. And we can do that by fear-free concepts. So the concept behind fear-free is practicing veterinary medicine that involves the reduction of feelings of stress in our patients, which in return will result in better experience for all involved, including pet owners and the veterinary team. So what has occurred for many years is that groomers and veterinarians don't last very long in the field because it's physical, it's taxing on your body. But I think that we can do work harder, I always say work smarter, not harder, that are less physically stressful on our bodies, more comfortable for our dogs and for the pet owners that are there representing them. The infographic that you should see on the right side of your screen is something that I think is really, really beneficial. It's something that I've found online, and it goes hand in hand as part of this fear-free type of approach. All right, so moving on. I'm also going to pull up here. This is our standard. So if we go back to our blue and white IFT book, this is something that we are required to perform as puppy raisers. This is something that you skill of your dog. So while the focus is on handler's exam and grooming, grooming is part of it. So we talk about position. What position should your dog be in, whether it's a sit, down, or stand position, all would be appropriate. Allows grooming from the stranger while the handler is present, and of course that's just our assessor. One of the key things is the second from the last task on our list is that it allows the assessor to use a slicker brush to gently stroke from the back of the neck to the hip area twice. So if you guys are not familiar with what a slicker brush is, that is typically a plastic brush that has all of the little metal spines, and that is what can help get some of that debris and undercoat out. So it's a really nice tool to use, but some dogs can be afraid of it, not comfortable. And if you have looked at some of the calendar challenges for April, May, and what we have coming for June and July. Actually, some of the tasks on there say, we want you to get comfortable with your future leader dog feeling that prickle of the slicker brush. And even though it's a no-brainer for some dogs, there are others out there that are not comfortable with that procedure, and we want to feel that going against their coat. All right, so we are going to move on to some videos, but before that, I want to explain, tell me in the chat box if you guys have seen or used the lick mats before, and these come in all shapes and sizes, and I have to tell you, they've been out for many years. Before they were out in official form, they've been out in kind of homemade different versions, but I love lick mats as a tool that I use as part of either stress-free or fear-free type grooming and veterinary care. The idea is that these are silicone type material. We take something that looks sticky, like either cream cheese or yogurt or peanut butter, and we smear onto these lick mats. And they come in different shapes and sizes and by all different companies that are available out there. With this, we can encourage our dog to engage and lick the medical or healthcare needs. So you're going to actually see this in one of the different videos that I'm actually going to start next. If you want to learn more, or maybe you don't want the investment of a lick mat, but you find it pretty intriguing, one thing I would say is that you can do this just by yourself. Before actual lick mats were made, I would take things like wax paper or cellophane. I would tape that to my wall and I would smear peanut butter on my wall. And that's how I used a lick mat without the cost of that involved. So first we're going to be starting out with this video, and hopefully you guys can see it. The video is going to show the lick mat that I have at home. And you're gonna see my dog. He's a golden retriever. He's career changed. I was his puppy raiser. And my dogs really enjoy grooming time. They look forward to it so much that, and I'm hoping that the volume is going to work on this. Hopefully you guys can hear it. My dogs love it so much, I actually put him on a stand. When I pull out things like the lick mat and my box of grooming tools, they start swimming around me and they're really excited to get groomed. And so I actually have them go in the other room and stay, and then I call them when I get ready. So we'll go ahead and let you guys watch this video. So I'm just adhering the lick mat just with a little water on the opposite side. It's already got peanut butter on it. I'm sticking it to my sliding glass door. I called him off of a stick. Now he gets to enjoy the peanut butter while I'm using the slicker brush. You guys, I'm not holding back on how hard to brush. This is a known behavior. This is something that we've done not only as an adult dog or a dog that I own, but as a future leader dog as well. And he's very comfortable with this. Not only is he comfortable, but he loves it. So I'm brushing pretty hard and I'm not holding back, but that's not where I started in this process. I started out very subtle, very short session, very easy and successful. So I'm here that I can go through and examine his body. I can lift his feet. I wasn't going to get too personal on the video, but I can lift his tail. I can examine his ears. I can apply ear cleaner if I need to, and I can actually trim his nails in this position. So if anybody has questions about that particular video or any questions about the lick mat, go ahead and feel free to ask them now. I'd be happy to answer them. You can mute or ask in the chat box.
I don't see any questions, Melissa, but we have a really cool idea that Cindy said that she likes to freeze yogurt on the lick mat and then use it in the tub when she gives a bath.
I love that idea, Cindy, and I'm giving you a virtual long distance high five. It's something that I often use frozen forms as well, because my dogs are really, they're not new to this game. If they were a little bit new, I want it to be very easy for them to be able to get the treat off of the mat. So sometimes I will use, but I definitely do freeze it too, because you'll get a little bit of longevity out of that. So great idea. Were you guys able to hear the volume on that video?
No, I wasn't. I don't know if anybody else
Oh,
was
darn.
able to. But we have a question from Shelley.
Either.
We have a question from Shelley. She says, can you provide a warning, the cute video of wrapping your head with PB on the plastic? And then,
Shelley, asking you will receive. If you only hold on for another 5 or 10 minutes, I promise you that is coming.
I'll tell you that was one that I saw, was the cellophane around the head and the peanut butter on her head when she was cutting the dog's nails.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I promise you.
I'll tell you, I thought.
Yes, it is exactly it.
we have a question from Jennifer Walker, and she's just asking if we can post these videos
Sure, and I'm going to
from the
put
presentation.
I do, and I will. So my internet has been just painful, but what I am doing is I have a Gordon's Grooming compilation video. And so all of the videos that you saw, minus the narration, I'm putting in one big clump, and I'm going to put that on our YouTube page so everybody can see the videos. Again, it's not going to be in the nice cleaned up fancy form. There will be no narration. I don't come attached to the video to be able to go back and watch them after the fact. Great questions, guys. Any more before we move on? All righty. So with this video next coming, again, I'm using my career changed leader dog as my grooming tool. And what's so wonderful about him is that he is a big hairy mess, and I absolutely adore him, but my vacuum works full time. So his coat requires a lot of upkeep, and also he can get matting very easily. He loves, he's the type of dog that loves making snow angels when there's snow on the ground, and when it gets a little warmer, he likes to make mud angels, and he likes to make grass angels, and he loves to make leaf angels as well. So he really gets into the whole process and loves to get dirty, and he mats really easily, so I have to stay on top of his coat. So this is part of my procedure. I'll either do the lick mat on the sliding glass door that you saw, or I will give him a Kong. And as Cindy had reminded and had suggested, these things can be frozen so that it adds a little bit of duration and a level of difficulty for the dogs to work through a puzzle. But we don't want to do that typically when we're just introducing this type of methodology to our dogs. They might find it frustrating not to be able to get much of the material out or off of that substrate that you're using. So we want to back down. We want to make it very successful and very easy for them. So we're going to go ahead and I will narrate through this video. So behind my back, I just have a red Kong, and I have it filled with good stuff. And I've already taught Gordy to lay on his side. And well, after I shot this video, I thought that didn't look very stress-free of me. I actually kind of pushed him over, and he told me very clearly that he didn't want to lay on his side. So notice a couple of things. He's not restrained whatsoever. I have my hand on him for a little bit of pressure. If the volume is up enough, you can hear again that I'm brushing pretty hard with the slicker brush, and I'm trying to hit all of the important areas. Again, for our IFT assessment, we want to make sure that the dog can have 2 swipes with the slicker brush from neck down to the base of the. As a whole, some of the really important areas on a long-coated dog are to brush behind their ears where they may mat, in their armpits, and he's already got a little mat, and I brushed him at least a couple of times a week. So you're going to see me on the other ear working through a little tangle that he has, and I'm just working through with, of course, under the tail, in the groin area and behind the elbows or in the armpit area are all prime areas for me. So I want to make sure that I work through those areas. But if I'm pulling hard on his coat, he's not going to be very trustworthy with me in the future. So I want to make sure that he's as comfortable as I can possibly make him throughout this process. So I know one of the things that he really likes, and I make sure to stuff that in his Kong. I'm just showing you here, and I'm going to purposely do some stuff that's kind of inappropriate. He's working away in his Kong. And if he stops, that gives me some information there. It may tell me that he might be a little bit fractious, that he's uncomfortable, and I should definitely listen. So when he stopped eating, and as part of our agreement, I went ahead and put his paw back. He started eating again, which is great. That tells me he's back to being comfortable. I'm going to do a little bit of scissoring on his foot.
A helicopter headed to Mars finally passed the game, all thanks to an Alabama high school student.
Hopefully you guys got to see him kind of jerk his foot back. That's really, really important for us to watch, because that is the dog's way of saying, this is no longer low stress. This is no longer on my comfort or on my terms, as we do with comfortable type procedures like this, or fear-free type procedures. I also started panting a little bit. As continued to proceed with our grooming session, which just told me he wasn't very comfortable and that I needed to listen and watch for those subtle cues of canine communication. So as long as he stays very engaged with his toy, and I'm going to keep on grooming, and again, I'm just going to watch for those subtle cues. So when we talk about things like pairing something that's not so pleasant, what I've been able to accomplish here is that now he sees the grooming box that has all of my tools in it. You can actually see it on the floor behind me. And there's an emotional response. My dogs start getting excited and they swarm around me like sharks in the water, because they know that I'm probably going to feed them something really awesome at the same time. This is a fun exercise that they enjoy engaging with. I always remind myself that I'm never going to do one without the other. I'm never going to pull out my grooming supplies or my tools and not give him something wonderful. I always want him to have this exact same response as we're working through it. All right. So if you guys have nothing else to do, you could watch me groom a golden for hours, but we're going to move on from that. Any questions there? All right. So as promised, I know that some of you guys had the question about the videos that are going around on Facebook or social media, and it shows different pet owners wrap head and cellophane and applying peanut butter to the front of their head. And I will tell you, so there's a couple of pieces to this, and you're going to see my disclaimer on the screen. Part and the side of me that loves the approach of presenting a task that our dogs may be uncomfortable with something they really enjoy, like peanut butter, and our goal to really do that from a stress-free methodology. However, as you're going to see in the infographic, we put ourselves in a really vulnerable position. If something were to happen, and things happen even with the best dogs, the most well-behaved dogs, the dogs that are just wonderful angels, without any sort of question, if we nip a nail too short, if we startle them, or something goes wrong, what's right there? What's inches under that peanut butter is our face. And I would hate to see an incident happen where the dog has no choice but to snap or to bite, and your face is right there. That puts them in a really uncomfortable position, and it puts you as the handler or the person doing their task in that really uncomfortable position. So I don't know that that is my favorite methodology to use as far as stress-free or low stress or fear-free. I think tools, sticky bone and the licky mat and all of those are far better choices. Even using a Kong like you saw in the video that I was using are much better choices than applying butter to saran wrap on your head. It's a lofty idea, and I think it's really ingenious that they came up with it, but I think that we can do things a little bit better and a little bit more sensible. Hopefully that addresses that question, the people that had questions.
Very good.
So as I prepare, I'm going to get another video. And I'm going to have to pull that off of YouTube. But while I'm doing that, hopefully you guys can see me back on the big camera. And I would love to answer any initial questions. And then we're going to move on to another video as well.
So we have a couple of questions. Amy is asking, I know you are mostly talking about stress-free grooming, but could you address reducing dandruff? She's getting a lot of questions about black labs and dandruff.
Good questions, Amy. So this is one of those things that we can accidentally find ourselves in a vicious cycle really easily. So, and I would say that the same thing occurs not only with dandruff or dry skin, but also with an unpleasant smell associated with the dog. Sometimes we see dry skin or dandruff and we decide that we're going to bathe our, and that works and the dandruff disappears. And so the next time we see that dandruff, we bathe them again. And we bathe them again, and we bathe them again. And we really want to get in there deep. So the next time that we're shampooing them, we'll go in and we'll comb and we'll try to get all of that coat out and then wash them out. And lo and behold, the dandruff comes back again. So it's kind of the snowball effect that we can accidentally increase the amount of dandruff or the dead skin that our dog produces by over bathing. So we have to be really, really cautious with that. The same thing occurs with ear cleaning as well. We want to be mindful. I typically own my dogs with, water and shampoo once, maybe twice a year, because their coat doesn't need to be cleaned as much. As we had talked about earlier, one of my favorite ways to keep a coat nice and fresh and eliminate the dandruff is by brushing. You're going to see a much healthier coat like that. Also, one of my favorite tools, and I'm actually going to reach behind me. Hopefully you guys can see this. This is the Zoom Groom. So Kong makes the Zoom Groom, and it's got these little knubbly teeth that are here. And I find almost all dogs, I will tell you, it's rare for me to find a dog that doesn't like to be brushed by the Zoom Groom. Ironically, my dog just came up. I pulled this out and he looked at me. So these little nibblies are really, really good at brushing the coat and redistributing the oils and making it nice and shiny. One of the things that I have to avoid, and I always recommend people, is that we can cause a skin infection or what we call folliculitis by getting in really deep while the dog is wet or has shampoo on them. And so you pull up too much of their coat, and you want to be really cautious about that. Good question, Amy.
We have another question from Ron. He says, what is your thought on using a Furminator on Goldens?
I do like the Furminator. So again, it's going to be kind of a double-edged question. So with a Furminator, as much as I think it's a great tool, we do want to make sure that your dog has comfort with the slicker brush specifically to be used during your IFT. So make sure that you get them comfortable with that. But I definitely think Furminators are a wonderful tool. It's a little bit eye-opening when you see how much coat that you have come out of your dog. Great question, Ron.
This is a really good question too, Melissa. It's from Lee and Linda Tecklin. They say, so you said you never get out, they said you never get out your grooming tools without giving a Kong or a lick mat treat. But on the IFT, we do grooming without any treats. Are there any plans to allow treats during the IFT?
I will tell you that I've been working on a committee with several IFT instructors / puppy counselors, and we are reassessing what the IFT looks like, and we're making determinations on what the IFT should look like in the future. That being said, if all the time that we do for practice, and this goes for training as well, if over the course of 12 months that I have my future leader dog in my care, and every time I get out my grooming supply, I have really, really good treats. I always build what we call a bank account, which means I build trust, I build comfort. They know when they see those grooming tools, it's going to be an exciting thing that they really have this cool association with. Now, the only time I ever withdraw something or have to take away from their bank account is that one time during the IFT where I can't present them with food. However, I can still present them with some sort of other reinforcement. I can tell them how wonderful they are, and we know for us golden people, they love hearing that. I can still use my hands as petting. I can give them scratching under their chin, whatever that. So all of those are forms of reinforcement. I can still definitely do that, but that's the one time I don't use food. But right after that IFT, guess what? I can go back to using food every time that I groom again after that. Great questions, guys. Do you have any other questions, or can I play another video? VJ, are you there?
Melissa, we've got one other question, and I will just go ahead and answer that one. I answered it in the chat, but for everybody who's watching, that if you've never raised a golden, does Leader Dog give you instructions on grooming the puppy? Basic grooming still applies here. So if you need help with some specific things, your puppy counselor can help you or puppy development can help you, but basic grooming will still apply to a golden. You may have to do some additional, maybe trimming around their paws and things. It's definitely not a requirement. Good brushing can still apply in that way. So great. There's one other question. You mentioned you bathe, shampoo, water only once a year. My yellow lab may have a healthy, shiny coat because I brush her frequently, but she gets stinky and doggy smelling. What's your advice?
Sometimes I will just wipe down with a wet rag, so that's water only. If you need to bathe, by all means bathe, of course. But if you have just a little bit of dirt and dander and a little bit of smell, then you can always wet down with a wet rag. There also are dry shampoos out in the market, and that can be applied to our dog's coat, so we're not stripping them as well. Great question. So
Melissa?
before we move on to additional questions, and I promise, oh sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. The one thing, I have had a lot of different labs, rescued labs, purebreds and mixed. And sometimes, and it's not so much in the first year of life, but it could happen that their anal gland needs to be expressed if they retain too much of a smell. So it's not necessarily bathing that's required, but the anal gland may need to be expressed, which a vet needs to do.
The vet does need to
I've
do.
had on my second
Any
leader
sort
dog,
of anal gland issues? Go ahead, Rita.
yeah, of the 3 leader dogs that I've had, 2 career changed and the 1 puppy that I have not experienced that, but I thought you may have experienced it yourselves with the multitude of dogs that you have.
Definitely.
So that smell sometimes is the anal gland.
If there are any sort of anal gland issue, and if anybody is not familiar with what anal glands are, they are little sacs on either side of the rectum that contain anal oil and debris, and it's released on its own every time your dog defecates. Sometimes they may be impacted in different ways, and it's up to typically a veterinarian to address all of those issues, and I'll kind of leave that at that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again because I'm going to try to play one more video. And I am going to play a video of, again, Gordon the Golden. And he has been exposed to using a Dremel tool for nail trimming. And the reason why I put this in is that I know on our Facebook page, our Puppy Raiser Facebook page, there's been a lot of questions about, can we use a Dremel tool to trim our dog's nails? And I'm going to say, yes, you definitely can, but I want you to introduce it in a way that makes the dog really comfortable, and it's a very slow process. So I do use a Dremel tool with my dog. The funny thing is that my dogs are exposed to this, and this is something that they do all the time. Now, what I did, if you guys can see in the photo that's on the screen, there is a little red ribbon on top of my Dremel tool. And the reason why I put that on there is just for demonstration purposes only. It has nothing to do with the procedure itself. But I knew that some of our videos have been hard to hear, and I wanted you to be able to see in this video when I turn on the Dremel tool. So hopefully you'll be able to see the red ribbon swirling around. And then you can see when I turn it back off again as well. So that's the reason why you're going to see it. Now, funny enough, even though he's had his nails Dremeled millions of times, the ribbon on there made a unique noise, and it caused him some fear. So we got to work through this process as I would introducing any dog to the Dremel tool, and you guys are going to be able to see that now. So I'm pairing two things together. He's getting a treat every time I turn on the Dremel tool. My other dog comes around the corner because she's late for the YouTube. So just like we play hands-on, hands-off with our handler exams for our dog, when we're talking to the dog, we give food. And when our hands are off the dog, food stops. I'm doing the exact same teaching type of thing. So turn on the Dremel, I give food, and I promptly turn it off again. This is far before I actually ever touched my dog with the Dremel, before I ever looked. I'm going to start with a really slow procedure as this. Because he was comfortable, then I moved into subtly lifting his feet. And I hope that you guys can notice something kind of unique in the video. Now, he's used to offering me his foot, so you kind of see his feet curl. He's actually assuming what's going to happen next. He has an expectation of he knows the game. And for us, we're just using dry mini milk bones. If I felt it, I so I'm looking for subtle signs.
Melissa, if you can hear me, you're really choppy and the video's pausing. If you can hear me okay, the video's pausing a little bit and stopping, and your voice is coming in a bit choppy.
All right. So I think we're at the end of the video. So to save some bandwidth, we'll go ahead and stop it then. Again, I will be posting, hopefully, as my internet allows me to do so, I will try to post this compilation of grooming, all the videos that I shared on our Leader Dog YouTube page, or our Puppy Raiser YouTube page, so you'll be able to see them and review them all when we're not slowing down or bogging down our internet. But I would love to answer any other questions that you guys have, and hopefully you got some benefit out of this presentation. So I'm just going back to Jeff Schaefer's question that I see in the chat. He asks, will the video be made available to view separately? And I will say definitely, Jeff, I will have those made available. Like I said, I'm going to publish them to our Puppy Raiser YouTube page. I don't know if they will get on tonight, hopefully tomorrow.
Melissa, we have a good question from
So
Shelley.
Shelley has a question. Yeah, go ahead, VJ.
Oh, it looks like we keep breaking up and freezing up, but Shelley's question is, I've been asked about using a head halter during grooming. No?
My question would be, what would be the hope and the intent and the benefit? So I don't like the idea of restraining a dog so that they're not able to escape. If it becomes a better handle or just a way to hold them and prevent them from moving, then I do caution it. If it's no more than any sort of a collar or anything, just to merely hold on to them, then I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I would avoid it if it's a thing that we're using to restrain the dog and not allow them to escape or move. Good question, Shelley.
Mary has a question too, Melissa. She said, can you talk about how to get through grooming when you are working on getting the dog used to brushes and nail trimming?
Right. So you'll be able to see this, Mary, in the videos if you're able to go onto the YouTube later on. But I just do a really slow approach. Again, I pair something that is either not so pleasant or neutral with something that they really enjoy. And I break it down to minuscule pieces. So I may just start by showing them the brush, pretend like this is my slicker brush, but I would show it to them and I would pair it with something. As you could see in the last video, I'm just tossing him a little treat so that every time he sees this, it clicks something in his mind and it means that that's a really pleasant item. And then I build up to brushing, but maybe I don't brush for long intervals. Maybe I just touch them once or do a really short swipe before I give another treat. And I build up to the amount or the duration that I'm able to do while I'm grooming. So I just break it to very tolerable pieces over a course of a long time. So as you could see that in the videos, my dog was able to go for a really long duration, but we didn't start there. We started for just a couple of swipes and a couple of seconds at a time. Great question, Mary. It looks like we are running out of time, so feel free to message me if you guys have any questions. I would love to talk to you by email. If you have any questions about fear-free or low stress type grooming and veterinary care, I'd love to answer those at any time. Thank you guys so much for attending this seminar. Bye, everyone.